Hi friends, welcome back to Rustic and Lace DIY. I am so glad you guys all stopped by today. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Brenda. This is my sweet, sweet Oliver. And if you're returning, you guys, you know we love you. I decided today to put a compilation video together for you that has some of my past Christmas and July DIYs. I know you guys are probably busy with the 4th tomorrow, and I know I'm going to be busy, so I thought I would just do this real quick. So I hope you guys enjoy it, and with all that, I hope you have a wonderful 4th of July. And with all of that, let's get to crafting. Okay, we have DIY number 2. So I'm going to take this little square rolling pin that I got from Dollar Tree last year. I removed the little bow, and then I'm just sanding it, just kind of giving it a little bit of a sand to help my paint adhere a little bit better. And then I wiped it all up, and I'm taking some painter's tape and taping off the bottom part of my handles. And then I'm going to paint that with 2 gingerbread wood cutouts that I got from Amazon last year. I'm going to paint them with Waverly chalk paint in the color hazelnut. I have a 10-inch and a 12-inch chunky wood piece from Dollar Tree. I painted one white and one red. And then I took this stencil that I got from Amazon last year. I believe this is in my Amazon store, and I am going over the word gingerbread with my white chalk paint by Waverly. I'm just dabbing it on with my stencil brush, and then I took my white wood piece here, and I'm doing the bottom part. It says baked or bakery, I think. I don't even know what it says. And I'm going over it with Waverly chalk paint in the color crimson. And then once I was done with that, I guess I'm going to finish it here, let you see me finish. I cleaned off my stencil, of course, and once I remove it, and then I'm going to use the very bottom part. It says made with love, and it has different things that they make. Oh, before I do that, I forgot. I took a really small brush. Well, first of all, I took a pencil and I drew in some lines, and then I took a really small brush and I'm just going to paint in some lines just to kind of give it like a candy cane striped look, because we all know that candy cane and gingerbread go well together. So I'm just painting it in just like you see, and I'm not going to make you watch the whole thing. I will get to the very end here in just a second or two. And then after I have this all painted, I set it aside to dry, of course. And this is where I'm going to do the next set of stenciling. I took my red block and I'm going over the words with my Waverly chalk paint in the color hazelnut. And then I'm going to remove that, clean my stencil, and then I took some puff paint and I'm just going to make some icing dripping from the top part of this sign. And then I'm going to set that aside for quite a few hours and let it dry. I think it helps being in summertime because I have my fan going above me, and I think that really helps these things dry a little bit faster. But I took my wood glue and my hot glue here. I'm going to start connecting the 2 pieces, and I was sitting there thinking, oh, I should have done the icing dripping after I connected it all, but I just connected the 2 and waited until the dripping was dried enough to connect the other one. So then I took some black puff paint and I am going to make some eyes, and as you saw, I had a big blob come out when I first opened it, but I got it wiped up, fixed it, and then I made some mouths with some white puff paint, and I also made little white noses. Then I took my red puff paint and I'm making some little buttons on the guy. I decided to try and make a skirt on the girl, but it looks more like shorts. My granddaughter was in here and she's like, that doesn't look like a girl, that looks like a boy wearing shorts. I'm like, well, it's supposed to be a skirt. So I thought, well, I'll try and see if I can kind of give her a little collar. And I tried to give her a collar here, and she goes, that looks like a bow tie. It still looks like a boy. I'm just like, how am I going to make this look more feminine? But I took some white puff paint, made the little dots for her buttons, and then I decided, okay, well, I'll put a bow on him, and maybe you can tell that it's a boy and a girl. And I then went with some white puff paint and made the little zigzag lines on the legs and the feet. I did that on both the female and the male. I do end up I tried to make a little red bow on her head. It didn't look good, so I cover it up with a bow at the end. But I took these little gingerbread dudes that I got from Hobby Lobby, and I'm just going to use some wood or my multi-purpose glue, Type Bond Quick and Thick multi-purpose glue and hot glue to attach them. And then I'm taking that same glue, adding it to the top of that sign with my hot glue, and added those together. And of course this was a few hours later because I wanted to make sure all that puff paint was dry. I took some little pieces of blocks from the cubed blocks, and I'm painted them with the hazelnut, and I'm gluing them to the back of my gingerbread people. I kind of had to move that one there to make it right because I wanted these to lay on the corner of my rolling pins, so I'm just using hot glue there to glue them on. And this one I decide, well, I'm just going to glue this in place on the top and glue the gingerbread person to it. But there is the twine that I used for the bow. I just did a little shoelace bow, glued it onto her head to make her look like a girl. And then I made some more frosting streaks with my puff paint here, and then I also used it to make some like hair on the guy, kind of a, I don't know what I was doing, but anyways, I think it came out darling. I absolutely love it. I think it is so fun. You'll have to let me know what you think about this in the comment box below. Hey, DIY number 4. So I'm going to take this MDF latte mug piece from Dollar Tree, and I removed that bow and the twine, and then I'm just going to remove the paper. It came off pretty easy. I did have to use my little scraper a little bit to get it started, but then it all came off pretty easily. Once I had that first layer completely off, then I am going to, oh my goodness, sorry, I didn't mean to show you all of that. I'm going to spray it with water, and I spray it really well. You let it sit for about 5 minutes, and then I just use my paint scraper to scrape it right off, just like that. And then once I had all of that gook and yuckiness all removed, see my granddaughter's little finger there, I painted it with Waverly chalk paint in the color hazelnut, and then I painted the top part with my Waverly chalk paint in the color white. Then I took a black marker, and I'm going to make some little eyes here. I kind of wish I would have made these eyes a lot bigger, more like the other one that I did, but oh well. And then I took my red marker, made a mouth. I took some pink. I should have done this part before I did the mouth, but that's just what it is. Anyways, I'm making some cheeks. And then after that, I'm going to take my red marker again and color in a nose. And then I am going to make a little line over the nose to give it some dimension, and then I made some very crooked eyebrows. And I decided, okay, I need to make my eyes bigger, so I did make my eyes bigger on this. Oh, I guess this is the one I was talking about. Oh my goodness, never mind, it was the other ones that were too small that I wish I would have made. Anyways, I added some white dots into that, and then I'm going to add some rickrack all around this little cute gingerbread latte cup. And then after I had that done, I took the only holly and berries that I could find. It was kind of bigger than what I needed, so I just kind of cut them down, and I'm going to use hot glue to glue them in place here. And then I'm going to glue those beautiful red shiny, now these came from Hobby Lobby. At Christmas time last year, it was like 99 cents for the pick, and I just thought the berries were so pretty, so I had grabbed a pick or two. I did go through some of my Christmas stuff up in the attic a week or so ago, and kind of brought some of this stuff down that I thought I would use, so I don't have to try and scrounge around my craft room, because I knew a lot of this stuff I didn't have it in here. So anyways, I glued that in, and then I decided I wanted another leaf, so I just kind of glued that in there on the bottom. And then I took this. Now this was in the dollar plus section. It was originally $3, but they were getting rid of it, so they marked it down to $1.25. So I grabbed it and I painted it with my Waverly chalk paint in the color crimson. Then I took all these letters. These are from Hobby Lobby. I laid them out on some painter's tape, and I'm painting them with my Waverly chalk paint in the color hazelnut. And I'm just going to go over all of them. And then once I was done, I dried them with my heat gun, and then I laid them all out on my sign, and I'm taking a pencil here to trace my mug where I'm going to lay it so that I know where to place my glue. And then I use my wood glue here, and I'm going to use a little bit of hot glue. Of course, the wood glue is for permanent hold and the hot glue is for the immediate hold. And then I am just going to watch what I do. So I lay my cup there, and I wanted to look at it, forgot that I didn't glue my letters down yet, and I went, oh man. So I got them back, laid back out the way I wanted them, and I'm using my Tight Bond Quick and Thick multi-purpose glue, and I'm going to glue all of my letters in place. And you guys, by the time I got done with the word gingerbread, the G was already stuck. So that's how fast the stuff sticks. It sticks really fast. I just love it. And I should get paid by them for how many times I talk about that stuff. So then once I had them all glued on, I took a little white marker, and I'm just going to do some white stitch lines all along the letters there. And that's all there is for this, I think. I don't think I did anything. Oh yeah, I did. I added some more of those little gingerbread people, and I just used my Tight Bond because I knew this was going to lay for a little bit before I needed to use it, so I didn't worry about the hot glue. I'm just going to add that glue, and there it is. I love this. I just think it is so adorable. I hope you like this as well. And make sure that you watch the playlist and go in on my community page. Okay, it's a time for a celebration of your recreation. And we have these pretty pieces that Corrine made. I love her little strawberries, and her lanterns are so pretty. Thank you, Corrine. And then we have these cute pieces Renee made. She made that Batman shelf for her son. These are so cute, Renee. Thank you for sharing. And if you have a creation or recreation that you would like me to showcase, you can send pictures to my email address that's listed there, or you can send them to me through Instagram or Facebook Messenger. Here's DIY number 2. So I'm going to take these letters from Hobby Lobby. They're 4-inch letters. I'm going to paint the J with the 2 little blocks with my white. I'm going to paint the O with the 2 little blocks, and that wood piece with apple barrel burnt umber. I'm going to paint the white with, I'm sorry, not white, the Y and the little blocks with my red, or crimson by Waverly. So before I painted the brown with the brown, I decided, or burnt umber, I should say, I decided to spray it with water because I wanted it to be a little more like a stain, but I probably should have sprayed it with more water because it was still pretty dark, or darker than what I wanted. So once I finished brushing this all onto my O, I took a napkin and or a paper towel, and I wiped off all the excess, just like you would using the antique wax. But it still was too dark, and so I used a baby wipe instead, and that really helped lighten it up. So I did that with the wood piece as well. And then once I was done, I created this with my Cricut, and I'm just going to attach it to my wood piece here. And then after that, I do have some Christmas stencils here in one of my drawers. And so I found this one with the snowflake, and I am just going to use my Waverly chalk paint in the color white, and I'm going to add a snowflake to each end of my wood plank here, or the each end of the word. I don't know. I don't know what I'm talking about, you guys. I hope you do. Anyways, when I get done with that one, then I decided I wanted a snowflake on my O as well. So I'm going to make 4 snowflakes on my O. And for some reason, I thought you needed to watch me do 4 snowflakes on my O. I am sorry, because you probably don't really need to see me doing 4 snowflakes, but that's what happens when I'm watching TV with my grandkids while I'm editing. I say that all the time, and it's true. I edit, and then I'm kind of not paying as close of attention as I should when I'm watching TV. So once I have this all on there, I am going to use my wood glue and my hot glue, and I'm going to glue 2 of those blocks together. So I have 3 sets no, I lied. I glued both of them to the back of my letters. That's what I did. I didn't glue them together. I just glued them on the back, just like you see. Then I was going to, well, I used my wood glue and hot glue, and I started to glue the letters onto my block, and then I went, oh no, like Kathy Joe. And I wanted to do something on my Y and my J. So I took my Y and I'm using my white chalk paint, and I'm just going to use that round sponge dauber to whatever. Anyways, on some polka dots. And when you use this, it doesn't give a real smooth look. It kind of has a dimpling look, which I don't really like. So once I have all my polka dots on here, then I'm going to take a small paintbrush and dip it in my white paint, and I'm going to go paint all around the inside of the dots to just kind of give it more of a smoother look. And then once I am done with that, I'm going to take my J, and I'm going to use the crimson color chalk paint. I'm going to do the same thing, and then I will use a small brush to paint it all in as well. Once I was done with that, I am going to use my wood glue and hot glue to glue both of those, or the rest of those letters, onto my little wood piece there. I'm going to make a finger bow, a double loop, and I'm just going to wrap my fingers twice. I'm going to take that in, go between my fingers, bring it up through that loop that I just made, and then I'm going to pull tightly. Now I do this very slowly so that you guys can see it, because it's kind of hard to explain, and I really fumble over myself most of the time trying to explain it. So then after that, I'm going to take some of this ribbon. I've had this since I started my channel, and I think I got it at Hobby Lobby, but it might have been Walmart. And I'm just going to make a bow doing the awareness ribbon, and I'm going to scrunch it up in the middle, and then I'm going to use that twine to tie a knot in the middle to hold it in place. And then after it is tied, I will cut off the excess of the twine there, and then I'm going to dovetail the ends by folding it in half and cutting at an angle. Then I'm going to glue that to the bottom of my O, and then I'm going to glue that twine bow on top of it, and that is all there is for this. I love how this turned out. It is a fun little shelf setter, perfect for Christmas. I hope you like it as well. Let me know in the comment box below. So for this DIY, I'm going to take 2 of these tree cutouts from, I think these are from Dollar Tree, and I'm going to paint them with Folk Art Antique Green, and then this wood piece from Dollar Tree with my Waverly chalk paint and the color plaster. Then once they were all dry, I took a stencil that I got from Amazon. It should be in my Amazon store. And I am just going over it with that antique green. That antique green is such a beautiful color. It's Kathy Joe's favorite, and she got me hooked on it. And I love it too. It's a beautiful, rich green, true green color, and I just love it. So once I was done with that, I am going to remove my stencil, and then I'm going to take this brush. Now, this is the first time I've ever used this brush, and I wasn't sure if I was using it right, but I just thought, you know what, we're just going to go with it, and we'll just see if this looks decent, because I just wanted to have it look, I don't know, like a little more like a tree with a little more dimension. So I gave it a try. Yeah, if you know how to use this brush, let me know what I could do differently. But anyways, once I was done, I took some of this black gingham ribbon from Dollar Tree. I'm going to glue it to the end of both of those, or both ends of that sign. And then once I am done with that, I'm going to lay it down on top of my trees. I'm going to use a pin, and I'm just going to mark where it's laying, so that way I know where to put my glue. So then I'm going to use my wood glue and hot glue, and I'm going to put the wood glue on the middle of my area that I marked out. And this is called a glue bot, and Kathy Joe got me this for my birthday. I do have it in my Amazon store if you're interested in it. It's great. And then I am yeah, I love it, and it works really nice. So after I had both glues there, I'm going to lay my sign down on top of my tree, and then I'm going to do the same thing on the other tree, and then just lay that on top as well. And again, the hot glue is for immediate hold. The wood glue is for permanent hold. I'm going to make just some shoestring bows here. I'm going to, with that gingham ribbon. And then once I have it just like I like it, I will trim off the tail, and then I will dovetail the ends just like you do with all the rest of my bows. You can always cut them at an angle too if you'd rather do that, or you can leave them square, whatever you like, whatever makes you happy. Then I'm just going to hot glue those to each side there, and then I'm going to take some of those little blocks. I went over them with that burnt umber, and then I'm going to use my Tight Bond Quick and Thick multi-purpose glue, and I'm going to glue those two blocks together, and then I'm going to glue this each set on the back of the tree. And that's all there was for that. I love this. I think it is so pretty. I think it's a fun shelf sitter. And yeah, you have to let me know what you think about this one as well. Now the final reveal is coming right up. You have to let me know which one was your favorite today. And okay, here's DIY number 1. So for this DIY, I'm going to use this picket fence that I got from Hobby Lobby. No, Walmart. I think it's Walmart. I'll have it in my description box. These trees from Dollar Tree and Walmart. This little wreath from Hobby Lobby. This house from Dollar Tree. This chunky slat from Dollar Tree. My Waverly chalk paints in the color crimson and white. And my antique wax. And then this decal I got from Cricut Design Space, and a couple of skewers. So I'm going to start off by removing the paper in the front of this house, and then I remove the top part of the house. And I'm just going to use my, oh, you have to be really careful and remove that top part because there are some nails sticking out. So I'm just using my heat gun to loosen the glue, and then I'm going to use my Cricut spatula there to remove the top layer of paper. Once I had that all removed, I spritzed it with water and then got all the rest of it off with my Cricut spatula there. Then I painted it with my crimson color, and then I used my white paint, and I painted that chunky piece of wood as well as the skewers, and then I'm using my antique wax to go over that piece that goes on the top. And then once I had that done, I am adding my decal to it. I'm just finding the right spot for it there. And then once I have this all added, I'm going to use my hammer, and I'm going to nail down those little pieces that were sticking up. And then after that, I'm just using my wood glue and my hot glue, and I'm going to add this onto the front of my barn. After that, I'm going to take my skewers and my miter shears, and I'm just going to cut these down to the size that I felt was right for the height of my door. And then I'm taking another piece here and cutting it down, and I'm going to cut it down again. And then once I have those pieces done, I'm going to cut down a piece to go across diagonally inside my door. And then I'm going to cut a second piece. I'm just going to use that as a template, and cut down another piece the same length. And then that second piece I'm going to actually cut in half. And then you'll see how I add that. And then I'm just going to use my hot glue to go around and hot glue each piece on there. And I'm sorry that I showed you so much of this because it wasn't necessary. But here you go. I did it. And I'm just adding my hot glue and just gluing them all in place. And while I'm hot gluing them, I am trying to get the glue pieces off that we're showing. Oh my goodness, I told you guys it was too long. I added too much of that. Okay, finally. So then after that, I am taking my fence piece here, and I am just hot gluing it to that wood piece, just like you see. Now, if you ever have this if you ever find it at Walmart and buy it and use it, be careful when you're hot gluing it on because it does have those openings. And I did burn my fingers a few times, although my fingers are so used to it anymore, it doesn't really faze me. But then I took this little wreath and I'm just going to hot glue that right to the top of the barn. And then I'm taking the tall trees and I'm going to hot glue one tall tree on each end. And then this smaller tree, I got that one from Walmart last year, and I'm just going to hot glue that. And then the barn, I'm going to use wood glue and hot glue them, glue them in place. And then after I have all of that done, this project is complete and I love it. I think it is so cute, and you'll have to let me know what you think about this one in the comment box below. Number 3. So for this DIY, I am going to use a decal that just says Merry Christmas that I created on my Cricut. And then I'm taking some of these leftover pieces of bamboo sticks that I had from a previous project that I did just recently. And I'm going to use one of these mini little wreaths from Hobby Lobby, this sign from Dollar Tree, and then my apple barrel Snow White paint and my crimson by Waverly. So I'm going to start off by removing this flower, and I didn't care if I ripped it. I really didn't think I would ever use it. It is just foam, so foam and felt, I think. So I'm using my little Cricut tool. I did end up using my heat gun because it was just kind of hard to pull up. And then once I got that up, I just kind of sanded down those areas to make it smooth. I should have sanded down the Happiness Is You a little bit more, but that's okay. I just had to use extra paint. So I painted it all with my red there. And once it was dry, I am taking these sticks, and I took some and I cut them down to fit the top, and I made the edges angled. And then I cut 2 littler pieces too, and I'm going to add them on the very end. But here I think I had cut one of those pieces too short, so I'm just making a new one here. And you'll see that's how you use a miter shear. If you don't have any, I would invest in them because I love them. They work out great for things like this. So that's what I do here. I make 2 longer pieces and 2 smaller pieces for the roof. And I'm just cutting that one to make it fit the right size. And then I had another piece that I cut down to go along the top straight part there. And now I'm just cutting some pieces to make a doorway. And after that, I took another piece and I'm cutting it down the middle of it because I wanted the piece that goes inside the doorway to be thinner. And then I'm just trimming them down and doing the edge as well. I'm trying to think, angling the edge, that's what I'm looking for. And then I painted them all white. And then I am hot gluing. So here I am hot gluing the parts that go onto the top of the roof. Then I'm adding these little pieces here, just like that. And I'm hoping they stay and don't break off because it's just a little bit of it being glued on. Anyways. And then I took this longer piece. I'm using my wood glue and hot glue, and I'm just putting that right towards the top of our barn here. Then after that, I am just using wood glue and hot glue to put our door together. And then once I had that done, I'm just adding the middle pieces here, and I'm just going to use, I think I just use hot glue on them. And then the second piece that I put on here, I will cut in half. I'm just trying to get the right measurements, and then I'm going to cut it, and then I will just put one piece on the top part of that X and the other one on the bottom, and I angled the ends as well, just the top and the bottom end. Then after I had them all glued on, I took this little wreath and I cut off the hanger, and I'm just going to hot glue it right on top of my barn. And then I'm going to take my decal and I'm just going to put it on. Did you see that? I almost put it to where the S would have been off the barn. That would not have been good. Oh my goodness. Anyways, I'm so glad I caught that before I laid it down. There it is. I love it. You'll have to let me know what you think about this, but it was, other than cutting down all that wood, it was really simple, but I really love this. I love how it looks. Maybe I should have sprayed some spray snow on it. That would have made it really cute too. Okay, here's DIY number 1. So for this DIY, I'm going to use a 5-gallon paint stir stick. I'm going to use my Waverly chalk paint in the color Crimson. I'm going to use this 12-inch wood round from Dollar Tree. And then I'm going to start off with removing that hanger from that wood round. Super easy, you guys. And then I marked that stir stick with my pencil on where I wanted to cut it. And then I took it out and cut it with my miter saw. Then I just painted one of the sticks and that wood round with my crimson. Once it was dry, I took my antique wax and I am just using a paper towel and I'm just going around the wax with a brush here. I'm going around the wood round. Oh my word, that's a mouthful. With my antique wax, and then I'm just brushing it or wiping it with my paper towel. And I'm doing that because primitive crafts look old and kind of antique-ish. And so that's why I am using the antique wax here, just to give it that old time feel. And then once I had the wood round all completed, excuse me guys, I went around that wood piece, the paint stick, with the wax as well. Then I took my pencil here and I'm just trying to draw what will look like holes in the bottom of my bell. And then after I drew that out, I took my paint, my Waverly chalk paint in the color ink, and I'm just painting all along that that I drew. Oh my goodness. This is going to be a fun one, you guys. I am just having quite the time speaking. After I had both of those done, you have to let me know what you think if that looks like a bell. My husband thought I should add more of those, and I didn't think so, but I don't know. Let me know. Anyways, I took my wood glue and my hot glue here, putting it along the back of my paint stick, and then I'm just going to place it in the middle of my wood round. Then I took some of these greenery picks. I got these off of Amazon, and I'm just cutting the little pick part down, and then I'm going to use my hot glue and glue them just going along the side part of my bell. And I'm just going to layer this one on top of that one, just like you see me doing right there. And then once I was done with that, I took some string, some twine here, and I'm putting it through my bells and just tying a little knot to hold them in place. And then I cut them down one longer than the other. And this one is going to be about the same length as the other one that I measured there. Then I'm just going to hot glue. I tied knots on the ends of those, and then I'm just going to hot glue them onto my wood round, just like you see me doing right there. Then I took some of this ribbon. Now this ribbon came with those bells. I got those bells from Amazon, and I'm just doing a finger bow. I think it's a double finger bow. Just wrapping my fingers twice, and then I'm just taking that tail here. I'm going to wrap it around all of those loops, and then I'm going to come back around and go through that loop that I went around the other loops with. I was having a hard time keeping it in my fingers there. Then I just pulled tight, really tight on that end to make sure that it's all nice and tight. And then I just kind of fluff it, and I'm going to hot glue it right over where I have all of those bells glued on. And then after that, I'm just going to cut the ends at an angle, just because it's kind of hard to cut dovetails on that thin of ribbon. And then I'm going to put that twine back in, or that hanger back on. I probably should have done this before I added my greenery. Kind of was a little hard to get it in, but I got it in, and there it is. I absolutely love how this came out. I just think it's so pretty. You have to let me know what you think about this one in the comment box below. Why number 2, and I apologize if you hear my grandsons in the background. They're playing games and they're kind of loud. So I'm going to start out by using my Waverly chalk paint in the color Plaster and antique wax. I'm going to use a strip of this fabric I got from Hobby Lobby, and then 3 of these wood ornament pieces I got from Amazon, and then this cutting board from Dollar Tree. So I'm going to start off by taking a paper towel and just adding some of that antique wax over my cutting board, and I do this the front and the back. I just wanted, again, give it a more darker finish, which gives it a little more of a rustic look. After that, I took my chip brush here and I am just doing a dry brushing all along the middle of each one of those wood rounds. And I just didn't want it to be a real thick coverage, and so that's why I decided to just kind of do more of a dry brushing. Once they were done, I took my black Sharpie here and I'm just making some eyes for the snowman, and then I'm going to make a smile by just making polka dots into a smile form. And then after I have this smile all completed, I'm going to use that little orange Sharpie to make his nose. And I'm just going to do a triangle, but I'm going to do it like sideways, a sideways triangle. And then I just colored it in. And then once I was done with that, I took my pieces and I'm just going to start hot gluing. Now this is the biggest piece out of all, and then the next one was a little bit smaller, and then of course the head was even smaller. So I'm just going to hot glue each piece in place, just like you see. I'm covering up the little ornament hole they have there. And then I'm going to add the head. And you guys, this thing comes out so adorable. I just absolutely love how this came out. And then after that, I'm going to take some of that fabric, I cut it down and I just tied a little knot in the middle, and then I hot glued it around his neck to look like a scarf. Then I took the back of a paintbrush and I'm just going around making dots all along the rest of that cutting board so that it looks like snow falling. And then after I had that done, I decided to just kind of make it look like a mound of snow on that underneath that snowman. And I'm just taking that plaster and just kind of painting it all in. And yeah, I'll say it again. I really love the way this came out. So once I had it to the way I liked it, I took my Sharpie and I colored in a couple of buttons for the snowman, just like you see right there. And then I took some felt and I cut down a little square and a long rectangle piece, and I'm just going to hot glue that square on top of the snowman's head. And then I'm going to put the rectangle piece right above it so he has a little hat. I don't know why I glued all the way across when it's only going to be part of it that's glued down. Oh my goodness. So after that, I took a tag. I got these tags, I believe, from Hobby Lobby, and I am just writing out Merry Christmas. Now, when I write it out, I am doing little dots. I got this from Tracy at, oh shoot, what's her I can't think of her channel name. I'll have it in my description box. Country Craft something country. But anyway, she calls them happy dots. And so I am just trying my best to make this look cute because I don't like my handwriting, but I think it came out pretty cute. Adding those little dots really does help. So I'm just writing out Merry Christmas and doing all of that. And then I took a black paint pen and I'm just going and coloring all around the edge of that tag. I just think it gives it just another depth of dimension, and I don't know, I just really like the way it came out. After that, I decided to take my antique wax. I have a little sponge brush here, and I'm just sponging it kind of on, brushing it kind of on, just to kind of darken that tag a little bit more, make it a little more antique-ish looking. Then I took some more of that fabric and I'm just tying a knot in it as well. I cut it down, tied a knot in it, and then I'm going to hot glue it right where that hole on that tag is. And then after that, I'm just going to glue it onto my sign right next to the snowman. Oh, it's so cute. Then I took some tumbling tower blocks. I'm going to take 2 sets of 3 and I'm hot gluing them together. Now these came in that color. The box of tumbling tower blocks that I got from Dollar Tree, some of them were natural color and some of them were painted brown. So I'm just hot gluing them to the back of my cutting board there so it will stand. And then I took one of these picks and I cut off the pick part, and I'm just going to hot glue this right along so it looks like a little tree there in the forest with the snowman. And I absolutely love how this came out. You will have to let me know what you think about this one as well, but I just think it is so stinking adorable. Number 2. So for this DIY, I'm going to use my Waverly chalk paint in the color plaster. I'm going to use this fabric that I got from Dollar Tree, and then a 2x4 that we had laying around in our garage. So I'm going to start off by marking 3 different sizes. The first size was 8 inches. The second size is going to be 6 inches, and then the last size is 4 inches. Then after I did that, I took it out to my miter saw and cut them all down. And once they were all cut, I painted them all front and back and sides with my plaster color. After that, I'm going to take my antique wax and a sponge brush here, and I'm just going over the edges to make it look a little more distressed, and then I just wipe off the excess with my paper towel, and I did this on all of the corners on all of those pieces. Then I'm going to take some hot glue, and that fabric I cut into strips. I don't even think I measured, I just kind of eyed it, and then I just cut a whole bunch of strips out based on how many little squares there were on the fabric. And then I'm just going to hot glue it, and then I'm going to do the same going vertically, going to hot glue some in the middle and go around, and then I realize, oh, this piece is too small, but don't worry, I'm going to hot glue this on, and then I'm just going to take another piece of that fabric that I cut out, and I'm just going to glue it right over top of that and then bring it up to the middle. And then I'll just cut off the fabric and glue it down. And nobody would even know that that was 2 pieces. And then once I was done with that, I took some more of that fabric and I just made some shoestring bows. Now this fabric does fray a lot. I had a lot of little strings everywhere. I was okay with that because I really wanted this to have a more rustic, primitive look. Now, I had a subscriber ask me to do some primitive Christmas in July, and I kind of had to look that up because I'm like, okay, so in my mind, primitive and rustic are pretty much the same thing. And so I wanted to look, and primitive is actually more of an old-fashioned, muted colors, kind of more of the darker colors like the maroons and darker greens, stuff like that. And they are a little more simple. I noticed like there's not a lot of big bows and stuff like that, but there's a lot more greenery. So I'm trying to kind of go a little more primitive. This might be a little more rustic primitive maybe, but my next video on the 17th will have a lot more primitive. So I am going to add some of these pieces I got in from Amazon. I ordered them, and I am just hot gluing them to the back of that ribbon. And then also it came, the package I got came with these little berries and came with pine cones and some acorns and some little wood stars. So I just took a few things out here and I'm just kind of hot gluing them around. And then I took these bells. I ordered these bells as well. They have all kinds of different sizes. I'm excited about these bells. I got some great ideas for Christmas for them, which is only a couple months away of doing Christmas DIYs, you guys. That's just crazy to think about. But anyways, I'm just taking some of the twine that came with it and I'm tying it around that bell because we all know that hot glue and metal don't like each other. So I didn't want to try and hot glue that bell. So I'm just putting a little bit hot glue and I'm adding that twine to it. And then I'm doing that right behind that bow so it kind of hides it. And then I kind of cut that string a little too long. It was hanging. I didn't like how it was hanging. So I just kind of, I'm going to add a little dab of hot glue and just kind of smush that twine into it and then hold it in place. And that's all there was. I did this for all of them. The first one was the biggest one. I did a little bit different, but I really love how these came out. You'll have to let me know what you think about these as well in the comment box below. Here's DIY number 3. So I'm going to use, again, this Tuscan Red color by Apple Barrel. I love it. And then I'm going to use some Scrabble tiles and then this picture frame I got from Dollar Tree. Those Scrabble tiles I got from Amazon. They are in my Amazon store. And then this paper, scrapbook paper, came from Hobby Lobby. So I'm going to start off by removing the hanger from the back of this picture frame, and then I'm going to remove the back. I just pull up the clips. Now when you push these up, you do want to be careful because they do break easy. I have had them break on me in the past. And then I'm going to use my heat gun and my paint scraper to remove that middle piece from that back of the sign. after that, I took that and I laid it on my scrapbook paper, and I'm going to trace it out, and then I cut that paper out so that it fits. Then I'm going to use my school glue here, and I'm just going especially over the edge. I want to make sure there's plenty of glue along the edge so that it sticks, and then I will put some glue all around the middle as well. And after I have this all glued up, I'm going to put my scrapbook paper on it. Now, if you don't have this scrapbook paper, and if you have a printer at home, you could definitely download music, printer music, or sheet music. You could even print out Oh Holy Night if you want to. And then I took my a sander, and I'm just sanding this. You want to be really careful because it is kind of I don't know if it's a paper or if whatever they use is lightweight, because it can kind of tear it. But this has a real shiny sheen to it, and so I wanted to sand it so that it would help the paint adhere. Once I was done sanding it, I did wipe it down, and then I painted it with that Tuscan red. Now, I did have to go over it like 3 times to get that paint to really adhere completely. If it was chalk paint, it probably I wouldn't have needed to do so many coats, but acrylic paint is a little thinner. So after I was done, I put the back in place, and I should have painted the back of the sign. It would have looked much better. And then I took my Scrabble tiles, and I am going to hot glue them in place. And it just says, Oh Holy Night. And after I had that all done, I am going to take, I sure hope I glued that in on a little more straight. I think I do. Anyways, I am going to take some of this table scatter and hot glue 2 pieces in each corner. Now, this table scatter I got a couple of years ago. I think it was at Walmart. It was either Walmart or Hobby Lobby, and I absolutely love this stuff. And this last Christmas, I kept going to both those stores looking to see if I could find any, and nope, I couldn't find any, which really bummed me out because I love it. It's just perfect for some smaller details, and yeah. Oh, well. Hopefully I can find some this year, maybe. So then in the package of stuff that I got from Amazon, excuse me, guys, I did get some of these beads, or not beads, these little berries, and I'm hot gluing them in place. They did come with the little wire stems on them, so I'm just going to cut those little stems off with my wire cutters, and then I will hot glue those in the bottom greenery pieces as well. And then once I have that all done, I did take some jute twine, and I tied knots on the end, and then I'm going to hot glue them in the back to make a little hanger. And that's all there was for this. This was really simple and easy, but I just think it's really pretty. I love that Tuscan red color for Christmas. I love it. Anyways, you have to let me know what you think about this one as well. Okay, here we go with DIY number 4. So another easy one, guys. So this one, I'm going to use this Chalk Couture transfer. It's called Joy. And then I'm going to use 3 2x4 blocks that I cut down, and I believe they do measure out to be about 3 inches. If you don't have these, or it looks like 3.5. If you don't have these blocks, you could definitely use the foam dice from Dollar Tree. And then I'm going to use my chalk paste in the color Black Velvet. I'm going to use my Waverly chalk paint in the color Sandstone. And then I'm going to use the Folk Art Antique Green and the Apple Barrel Tuscan Red acrylic paints. No, chalk and acrylic paints. And then I took each one of those paints and painted each one of those blocks with each color, front and back and sides. After they were dry, I am taking my wax. This is by Chalk Couture. And I'm just covering the front with it. This is because the wood is so porous and not completely smooth. Sorry, I don't know what's going on with my voice. But the wax just helps the transfer to not bleed, and it helps the paste go on nicer. So I cut down my Joy word, as you can see, and I'm just going to fuzz it because I haven't used it before. If you're not familiar with Chalk Couture, it is a adhesive silkscreen stencil. And the reason why we fuzz it the first time we use it is because we don't want it to pull up the paint once we pull it up. So after I have them all fuzzed, I'm just laying them in place where I want them to be. And then I'm going to use my chalk paste, and I'm just going to go over each one of those silkscreen areas. Now, if you are interested in Chalk Couture and would like to try it, I always suggest the Chalk Couture Club. It is $21.99 a month. You get an exclusive 8x11 transfer as well as 3 coordinating single paste. And I think it's a great way to try it out and see if you like it. If you do subscribe, you do have to at least subscribe for 3 months before you cancel. But I love using this stuff, and I just always think it makes everything look so professional and high end. And yeah, you'll see that here in just a moment. So after I got my chalk paste on here, you'll see that I'm going to lift my transfer. That's because I don't want the chalk paste to dry on my silk screen, because if it does, then when you pull up your transfer, it will pull up some of that chalk paste and it won't look as nice. So once I had them all done, I went and washed off my transfers right away. That's something you want to do. And then once they were dry, I took my wood glue and I'm going to take some hot glue, and I'm going to start adding them together, one on top of the other. Now, I went back and forth on whether or not I should do them next to each other, side by side, or up and down vertically. So I decided to go ahead and do vertically, but you could definitely do this horizontally. Oh my goodness, it's too early in the morning, I think. And I think that would look great too. So after that, I'm going to make a quadruple finger bow, and I'm just wrapping my fingers 4 times with my twine here. And then when you make a finger bow, you always want the tail to be a little long because you're going to need it for wrapping. And after that, I had to kind of position my fingers a little bit better here. But I'm going to take that tail and I'm going to wrap it around those loops that are on my finger. And then I'm going to come back around and go through that loop. And then I'm going to tighten. I'm going to leave my fingers in there while I tighten. And then that's all there was for that. And then I'm going to trim off those legs and hot glue that to the top part of my cubes. Then I'm going to take some more of this table scatter. I'm going to hot glue, I think 3 of them to the bottom, making sure that it's not keeping my blocks from being able to stand. And then once I have them on there, I took one of these little snowballs that comes with those table scatter and hot glue that in the bottom as well. And there it is. I love how this came out. I think it's so pretty. I love those colors together. And yeah, I think it looks primitive, don't you? Okay, here's DIY number 1. So for this DIY, I'm going to use one of these wood dowels. I believe I got this from Walmart. This Christmas tree cutout that I got last year from Dollar Tree. I'm going to use my Home Decor White Wax by Folk Art and my Waverly chalk paint in the color Fern. This wood piece I got in a mystery box. I don't remember who I got it from. And then this adhesive wall tile piece that I got from Dollar Tree. So I'm going to start out by taking the tree and I'm going to just trace it out on the front of my tile. And I didn't care if there was a little bit of ink because I am going to paint over that tile. So once I have this all traced out, then I am just going to cut it all out, and then I'm going to remove the back piece from that tile. After that, I am going to take my fern color chalk paint, which is just green, and I'm going to paint all around the front edge of my tree and on the sides, and then I'm going to use it also to paint the very back. Now the reason why I do this is just because I wanted to make sure that it blended well with the front of the tree. So here I'm just using some E6000 all over the middle of my tree and then my hot glue. Now if you recreate this, be very careful. The hot glue does not melt that plastic, but it is very hot when you touch it. So right there you can see it was kind of hot, so I was doing removing my hand quickly. So then I just took the rest of my fern paint and I'm just going to paint that whole tree with that color. And after that, I'm going to take my white wax and I am just going to go over with I have a little chip brush that I got from Plaid Online. And I am just going to go over the raised areas. It does get on some of the non-raised areas, but it looks great. Now, if you don't have any of these chippy brushes, you could also use like a sponge brush, but use like the side and just gently go over. I've seen people do that as well. But you guys, I absolutely love the way this came out. I saw on Pinterest a snowman, and then right after I saw that, like a couple days later, I saw Sammy create the same thing, as well as some trees, and I just loved it, and I wanted to recreate it myself. Here I'm just painting that dowel with green, and then I'm going to use hot glue to put it on there, and then I'm going to run hot glue along each side of that. I keep thinking of what else can I use these wall tiles on, because I just absolutely love the way this looks with the paint and the wax. It's just beautiful. Then after that, I'm taking my wood piece and my husband's drill, and I am drilling a hole. Now, he gave me a drill bit that was the same size as the dowel, but it ends up being a little too big. So if you have a drill or do this part, you might want to have your drill bit be just a little bit smaller. So after that, I am just going to use my super glue and my accelerant to hold that tree in place. I do have that accelerant in my Amazon store if you're interested in it, but you just put in your super glue, spray it, and wait about 7 to 10 seconds, and it's set. So then I'm just going to take this twine and wrap it around my hand about 10 times, and I'm just making a bow, and I'm just going to scrunch it up in the middle, and then I'm going to take my ends and just wrap around the middle of my bow and tie a knot. Super, super easy. And then I'm going to leave the tails hanging on this bow, but if you would rather not have a tail, you can always cut them off. After that, I decided it needed something a little more rustic, plus I wanted to cover up the rough edges from the tile, and I'm just hot gluing some, twine all along the side of my tree there. And then after that, I am done and absolutely adore this. I love this so much. I keep thinking, what else can I make with those wall tiles? Because this is just so cute. You have to let me know what you think about this one in the comment box. Here's DIY number 3. So for this DIY, I'm going to use some half beads that I got from Amazon. I'm going to use my Waverly chalk paint in the color celery and my antique wax, this peace sign from Dollar Tree, some scrap paper that I have from, you know what? I was thinking Hobby Lobby, but I think it came out from a book that I have of paper. I'm not sure. I'll have to look. And then some of these wood planks from Dollar Tree. So I started off by removing all those hangers, and then I'm just laying all of these out on top of each other like you see, and I'm just making sure they're all even. Then I'm taking some jumbo craft sticks, and I'm going to use my wood glue and hot glue, and I'm just laying these all on each seam to connect them together. And this will now be the back side of my sign, and I'm just going to do that through each one, and I'm making sure, because you can tell they're barely going over the edges, but I'm just making sure that they're all going over the top and bottom edges there. And after I have this all glued, sorry I put so much of this in there. This is probably boring, but hey, we're done. I'm going to use my antique wax. Look what I did. Oh my goodness. I made such a mess. I couldn't believe if my bottle hit the side of my board and just went all over my table. Anyways, once I had that with my antique wax all over the sign, I'm taking my celery chalk paint and I'm painting these beads. Now, I love using this tape method. I just put out some painter's tape, put all my beads on top, and then I just go around and paint them all. And then Usually I can get all the way around the edge and don't need to do any more painting. So then I cut down this scrapbook paper to fit, and I'm making sure that the seam is not through the letters, but through a solid part of the back. And that I'm just hot gluing it right in because I know you're not going to see the back. So after I have this all hot glued like you see, there we go. I am going to put it on the front of my sign. And I decided to use a pencil to kind of trace where I want it to lay. And then I'm going to use my wood glue and my hot glue. Now, if you're wondering why I do both, the wood glue is for a permanent hold. The hot glue is for immediate hold. So that way I can continue on with my project and not have to wait for 24 hours. And then I'm just laying that right in place here. And then I took my decal, which I'm sorry, I didn't show that at the beginning. I forgot to create it before I started showing you my projects or my items. So here I'm just burnishing it onto the right side of my peace sign. And it says on earth, goodwill towards men. And then I'm taking my little half beads that I painted, and I am just hot gluing them right on down the sides of that peace sign. And after I had those all on, I'm just taking my bows here. I'm making a double bow again. And this green ribbon I got last year at Hobby Lobby for our tree. It's absolutely beautiful. And then this plaid ribbon, I honestly don't know where I got it. It doesn't have any kind of label on it. So I think it might have come from Walmart at like Christmas time, but I'm not positive. So here I'm just dovetailing the ends, and then I'm going to take these. Oh my goodness, you guys, I got these last year at Family Dollar. I hope they have more this year because I loved these. I kept going back and buying more. And they're a lighter color, but I love the way they feel. They're not prickly, they're soft, and I just think they're beautiful. So I'm just going to add the bow right over the top of where I place those. I'm going to add a few of those berries. And then I thought, it just needs a little something more. So I add a hanger. Just joking, guys. I'll get to what I added here after I show you my adding the hanger. So I'm just adding a small hanger. I thought about adding maybe some of that ribbon as a hanger, the black ribbon to match, but I just ended up going with a small hanger. So here, this is where I thought it needed something more. So I took some of this berry garland and I'm just hot gluing this all the way around that peace sign. And I just think that it kind of helped break up some of that brown color and add a little more dimension to it. And I love the way this came out. You'll have to let me know what you think about this one as well. Okay, DIY number 1. So I'm going to take 3 of these long signs from Dollar Tree. I'm going to remove the ribbon from this one and the tag on the back. And then after that, I started to pull off the paper. The paper was really going over the edge on this. I thought it would be a lot easier, especially since I've had it for a while, but no, it kind of took a little bit. So I ended up using my heat gun to try and release some of that adhesive. It did help. I was able to pull bigger pieces off. Now, if you don't want to do this, you could always do the back side of it. I just like to have a finished project and I like to get it all off. So once I got the top layer off, I sprayed everything with water. I'm using this scraper tool that Kathy Jo got me. I believe she got it from Temu, and I got all the rest of that paper and glue residue off. Then I laid the two together and I used my square ruler to cut or to make a line diagonally, and then I went out to my miter saw and cut them diagonally. Now I'm going to attach them together. I was going to use that third sign in the middle, but I decided I did not like how wide it was, so I ended up just putting the two that I cut down together, and I'm attaching them with my giant craft sticks and wood glue and hot glue. After that, I went ahead and painted the whole thing with my Waverly chalk paint in the color Mineral. Then I'm taking the square ruler again, and I am making ship lap lines. And I'm just using it to make sure that my lines are straight, and I'm using a pencil. And once I get done with all of my lines, then I'm going to take my finger and I'm just going to go over those lines and just smudge them so that it gives it a more realistic look. After I had them all done, because of the crack in the middle from where I attached them, I wanted it to look a little more uniform with the others. So I just drew pencil lines right next to the crack, and then I used my finger to smudge it so it looked more like the other lines. If you wanted to, you could also use a knife to cut through the lines, other lines, but I didn't want to do that. So I took this Chalk transfer, and I think this was from a year or two ago. I haven't used it yet, so I'm going to fuzz it since I haven't used it. And if you're not familiar with Chalk, it's a self-adhesive silk screen stencil, and I am just fuzzing it the first time because it's so sticky it will pull up your paint and chalk paste if you don't. So I wanted to make sure that it didn't do that. Once I had them all fuzzed, I laid them out like I like them. I'm using my bright white chalk paste by Chalk. I'm going over all of the letters, and then I'm going to go over the greenery and the berries with I think it's cherry for the berries, and then a Scout, which is a new color for the green. And if you again, I am a Chalk Couture designer. I kind of forgot what I was going to say here. And I do have a link to my page in my description box if you're interested, or if you have any questions or would like to look it up. And if you do have questions, you can always email me with my email address that's also in the description box, and you'll see that here a little later in the video as well. And ask me questions. I'd be happy to answer any questions. I usually recommend, if you want to give it a try, doing the monthly subscription, which is $21.99 a month. You get an exclusive 8x11 transfer, 3 coordinating single chalk paste, and sometimes it comes with a surface that may go with it. And I think it's a great way to get started. You do have to sign up for at least 3 months before you can cancel, but it's a good way to get started and try it out and see if you enjoy it. So after I had it all done and it was dry, I'm going to make some bows with the brown ribbon. Came from, I believe, Walmart. This ribbon, I have no idea. I've had it in my stash forever and I do not remember where I got it. But I am just making some bows by doing the awareness ribbon, scrunching it up in the middle, and then I'm going to use some twine to tie around it to hold it in place. Then I will dovetail the ends once I am done. I do trim off the excess of that twine too. And then dovetailing, you just fold in half and cut at an angle. It's kind of hard to tell with this mesh looking ribbon, but you can definitely see it on the other ribbon. And then I took my big mouth crocodile here. I'm making 2 holes right in the middle of my sign, and then I'm going to make 2 more holes on the end. And the reason why I did that was to add this zip tie to the greenery. Now the greenery pieces came from Amazon. The berries came from Hobby Lobby, and I'm just going to lay them all where I want them. I'm going to take the end of my zip tie and put it through behind that twine on my bow, on the back of my bow, and then I'm just going to thread that zip tie through the other middle hole. I made the middle holes for this purpose, and then the holes on the ends for the hanger. So then I'm just trying to make sure that everything is inside of that zip tie where I want it, and then I will pull tight and cut off the back. Then I'm going to take a little bit of white paint and I'm going to go over all that greenery to give it a snowy look. And once I was done with that, I added my hanger, and that's all there was. I love this tag set. I love that it's longer. I was really wanting a longer tag and I couldn't really find any, and so I thought, why don't I make some? So there it is. I love how this came out. You have to let me know what you think about this in the comment box below. Okay, DIY number 3. So I'm going to take this cool wall decal I just found at Dollar Tree. I'm going to mark where it's going to lay, and I'm going to use my square ruler here to draw lines, and then I went out to my miter saw and cut it. If you don't have a miter saw, you can use like a box cutter and just score it about 10 times and then it will cut. Then I painted it with my white chalk paint. And then I took some of that chalk paint with this fan brush, and I'm just going over all of those dark trees to make it look like snow. Now, I do add a little bit of that on the gray trees as well, but I just love how this came out. And I saw this and I thought, you know what? I was trying to figure out what to do, and I thought, to me, this makes me think of Christmas. So I decided to try and make this a little Christmassy. Now, this project isn't your normal Christmas traditional colors, but not everyone does the traditional colors. And I just thought this might be a great idea for something that's a little bit different for Christmas. So after I had that on my board, then I took some wood letters. I got these from Hobby Lobby, and I'm just going to go over them with the Night Sky by Waverly. And I like to put them on the back of some painter's tape. It just holds all my letters in place and makes it a little easier to paint. After that, I took some of that crystal chalk paint from Waverly, and then some of this glitter acrylic paint from, I believe it's Folk Art, and I'm going to go over these snowflakes. I already painted it with the crystal, and now I'm just going to go over it with the extreme glitter paint. That way it just gives it some shininess and makes it look a little more fun. Then I'm going to use my Tight Bond Quick and Thick Multi-Purpose Glue. I love this glue, you guys. It sets so quickly, and it stays longer than hot glue, that's for sure. So I'm going to go ahead and put it on the back of all my letters and just lay them all in place. And I'll tell you, by the time I'm done, everything is stuck. It's that quick, and I love it. So, and it works so well on all kinds of surfaces. So once I am done and I have all these letters done, I took some of this velvet ribbon from Dollar Tree. I got this at Valentine's Day, and I have to tell you, it's not worth the money. It's $1.25, and all you get is a yard. So anyways, I'm going to do the awareness ribbon as well. Sorry about all the mess going on and the extra hands there. My granddaughter was helping me out. She was unrolling my rolls of ribbon for me so I can store them a little easier. So she grabbed a handful and stuck them all there in front next to me, and I'm just like, okay, you're kind of squishing me out here, but you know what? I was loving having her next to me and us talking and enjoying each other's company as we're both working. It was amazing. So I'm just using some of this this twine, or whatever you want to call it, came from the shelves from Dollar Tree. And I like to save those, and I thought, oh, this is white. It'd be perfect for this sign. So that ribbon the polka dot ribbon came from Hobby Lobby. And then I'm just going to add a hanger. I put some tape on the end of my, I think it's macrame rope, I think is what they call it. But anyways, I'm just going to pull it through and then tie knots on the end and make a little hanger. And that's all there is for this super simple, really different than your normal Christmas projects, but I love it. And it makes me think of cooler weather when we're at 100 degrees.